Good afternoon. Today is October the 24th, 2022. Trading and investing of any kind carries risk. Everything discussed here is for entertainment purposes only and not to be taken as financial advice. So, what an interesting last week and so far today. So let's take a look at what might be going on because, we never fully know. So, if we look back, we look back a bit and you try to figure out the pattern that's setting up. It's not that there's nothing that could take us down, but it really seems like we're going to push up a bit before we decide to try to come back down. And we might be finished with that, but I don't really think that we are necessarily. We probably have pullbacks and all of that, but yeah, I'm really thinking that we'll possibly push a bit more. I don't know if we'll push that far, to this 402 area on the SPY. But it's very interesting because there is also a crab pattern that takes us there up in that area too. And there are other patterns. If you notice how the market works, if we were to zoom in, most of the time what you'll get is M's and W's. But, you'll get a W that'll help set up another W that'll help set up, another W and so on and so forth. Now, of course, within those W's are M's and, bunches of other patterns, head and shoulders and all those things, right? So, the only thing I was looking at previously, I say one, not the only thing, but one of the things I was looking at previously was around in here. I was really thinking that if we were going to go ahead and pull down further, we probably would have done it right here. And we didn't. So we ended up actually, turning around and moving up. So we didn't pull down and finish out this cipher pattern. So that's kind of what I'm thinking in my head. We've got these ABCDs that keep, popping up and kind of working out on smaller time frames. And this one is, decent size. So, it could have, technically we could say that it's already within realm of completion, right? But it could push up to 1.618. So, and then as we tend to do that, as we do, we start digging into the smaller patterns that are setting up, into these day trades and, smaller swing trades. And keep in mind, right, I'm always trading SPY. It's not that I don't trade anything else, but typically I trade SPY or the MES or the ES. So, something that kind of came about, I think it was Friday. Let's look and see Friday. Yeah, so what we started to get was, we started to get this pull, and this pull was really starting to show some divergence. Is this Friday or is it Thursday? Maybe it was Thursday. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out what day it is. It's the 20th, it looks like. So whatever day the 20th was, maybe that was Thursday. So, we had this pull on Thursday, an all day, mostly all day downtrend, right? We had that push in the morning, then this all day downtrend. And what we started to get as we continued to move further down is we got this divergence, right? We had this divergence set up here where we had a downtrend, but we were had that downtrend, those pushes further down were with less momentum. And so because of that, we saw it also on the 15. I don't remember seeing it on the 1 hour. And that's typically where I look for divergences, 5:15, 1 hour. So then what happened? Well, we turned around and we just pushed the next day. And, it was an all day push. We had one solid pullback to VWAP and it just kind of continued to cruise all day long. But while that was happening, if you notice, started to get all this push, this continuance up and less momentum. Same on the 15th. Right? We had that push up. Then we kept getting this, all this lower momentum here. Right? So that was on Friday. So, and if you notice, we're still to some degree having the same thing happen even today. We're starting to see where we're kind of starting to see some divergence again. We're getting these smaller pushes, whether they're exhaustion, is yet to be determined. I guess we'll figure that out maybe tomorrow to see if we get a solid pullback or not. We hit some solid, numbers today, right? We hit some solid retracements, some 78.6s from which we'll check and we'll look at in a second. But yeah, it's kind of looking to me like we're kind of due for a pullback. Now we'll see if we get continuation, but if we get a pullback, I'd still look for continuation. I don't think it's going to be a rip to the downside. So now let's swap over to our main for today and look at some bigger picture stuff. So today we had this retracement, so practically a double top. We pushed a little bit over it. And then if we get this retracement from here, let's look at what we hit today. Or if we even hit anything important. Almost made it to 78.6. Really close. But, almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, and exhaustion in the market. So, that's just what it is. So we nearly got to 78% or 78.6 on this retrace, which is a pretty solid number to get to, especially because on this particular retrace, we're looking for a cipher pattern. So let's just say we pull this top of this cipher down here, not at the wick, but at the actual candle. And look at that. Boom, we hit 78.6. And we've got divergence. We've got all these signs that are kind of saying, maybe it's time for a bit of a pullback. Now, how far will that be? It really just depends. It'll just depend on, so usually when you have divergence on 5 and 15, you get, a smaller pullback and maybe a little bit bigger of a pullback, or you have maybe more of a consolidation day. So at least that's, what I've observed. And I'm not the be all end all, but, these are just my observations. And this is just me going through this. So let's now, so we see that we've mostly, possibly mostly completed this, this cipher here. So let's jump out to more of a 10-minute setup. And well, it kind of goes back to what we were looking at here, right? What's next? Well, if we're looking for what's next, we just kind of completed this potential cipher. We could complete this crab pattern, possibly. We could complete this cipher, which are two patterns that kind of end up in the same place, or we could just consolidate for a while. So that's what it is. I mean, that's kind of where my head is as far as the overall market goes. So now let's dive into today. So what did we see today? So we know kind of what it looked like on the 5-minute. We'll take a look at it, look at the SPY today. So here we are. So, and it looks a little bit funky, right? So what real pattern did we have set up on the 5-minute? That, I mean, I don't really see much, maybe a little bit of an M this morning, a W right here. But outside of that, we had this push, we had this here. So maybe an ABCD pattern. We could try to measure that out and see. Let's see here. So let's look. What did our pullback look like? Well, pullback was roughly 38.2, not quite, but almost. And then we pushed up to 1.6. So yeah, we could absolutely have called that an ABCD today. So that was our pattern play for today. But what set that pattern up? Well, what set the pattern up is going to be back over here. This other screen here. So let's zoom in. So this is the futures market. So on the futures market, today is the 24th, right? So what we ended up with, and this is kind of what I'm, if we have a pullback, this is kind of the pullback play I'm looking for. So we had this push last week, at the end of last week. And then when the futures market started last night, we had this retrace back down, right? So if we were to measure this retrace out, like not quite 50%, 38.2, yeah. So just past 38.2, not quite 50%. So, and then what we've got is we've got this push now, this push beyond double top here, which is 1.13, which starts to set us up for a potential cipher pattern. So if we were to have a pullback, what I would be looking for a really good pullback for some kind of continuation, if we continue down now, we might push up, a little bit further here. But, just based upon what we're seeing now, we'll have to check the futures tonight and tomorrow morning. But what I would like to see is to get back somewhere around, 3680 on the futures. So we'll measure that on the SPY in just a minute. But, to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, we'd be looking at something like this. And pull back to probably right in here. So, we'll see if we accomplish that or not. But that's what kind of set us up today, right? So we had this, and then you can zoom in, of course, here, and there's these W's that set it up. This looks like possibly a crab pattern pushed, and then we had another W after that, which turned into an M, and that's just how the market runs. That's just how it works. So let's go back over to our SPY here. So if we were to measure out that same pattern we were just looking at, it's not near as pretty. But if we were to get a 78.6 retrace here, we would get, let's take a look at her here. We would get roughly to around 365. Or 366, 365.93 is what I'm showing. But again, like we could push up a bit more here, right? Because we could still retrace up to 1.414 for a cipher pattern. And so if we were to do that, that, of course, that number is going to move a bit. So if we got a pullback, that's what I would be looking for. And I hope that's helpful. So now let's just dive into what we had today that we could have traded. And this video is going to be a bit longer. Some of my videos have just been a bit longer just because, there's a lot to go over, and I'm trying not to make them every day because I don't want to get, repetitive and boring. Or at least I'm not releasing them every day. So what did we have? Well, at the open, we had this, back and forth here. We had this W we could have played pretty quickly. We could have played the C to D leg on that. And we had this M that we could play out, right? And it just continued to pull. So if we were to have played this W, it would have been a scalp. I don't think I would have sat in that. If we would have played this M, which I think I did. I have to look at my little journal over there. But, the way that would be played, one of the things that, we've talked about previously is that, you can draw these lines here, or you can possibly measure it from here. It looks like it's got a pretty good setup there too. So then we get this pull. So let's just say you entered somewhere here, or maybe you even entered here, right when it broke the center line here. So what you really want to be focused on is where you take profits. Oh, I see. Yeah, we're going to have to call it here. So where you want to take profits, right? So you enter and you want to start taking, as you measure these out, you want to start taking profits, around here, 61.8% retrace from up here, which is, let's see what we got here. We pulled below it. That's very interesting. It's not really measuring well from that wick, but such is life. It's just what it is. Sometimes that's how it goes. So anyway, you want to take some profits here. get in it here, take a little bit here, let it pull down. You know, if we get, I don't know, if we get to 1, I mean, if you look where it bounces, I mean, I would always take a little bit more right around, you know, a double bottom. You know, and then, you know, you could either let the rest ride or you could take it. If you let the rest ride, you want to make sure that as you're taking profits along the way, if you're just going to let it ride, if you would have actually ended up, well, I didn't let it ride all the way down to here. But if you would have, you would have come out pretty well. So if you do that, a lot of times you can let it ride all the way back up to somewhere near your entry, maybe a little bit under, just depending upon how you want to play it. Why is that? Well, I mean, well, actually, this went to 1.618. That was actually a perfect place to close it out now that I'm looking. I didn't measure that earlier, so, you know, I actually would have taken all of it there if it would have made it there. But the reasoning that, the reasoning I say that you let it ride, and a lot of times what you'll get is you'll get this push, and you'll get this, if you're in a, you know, start making a downtrend, you'll get a W that sets up. And maybe it's a cipher or a bat pattern or something. And what you'll get is you'll get this push back up. But it a lot of times it won't hit your entry, or it'll come really close or just past it, and then it'll pull back down again. And the reason that these W's set up that, I mean, that's how they have to set up. Oh, that's how the algorithm set them up, I guess I should say. So you have these pulls and you have these W's that, you know, they complete at a lower level than where they started. And the ones that are considered, you know, possibly more in an uptrend, you're going to see something instead of that. What you're going to see is more of a, like a crab pattern that'll push beyond the entry, right? And so if you see a crab pattern, and, you know, and when you get that crab pattern, the, you know, the pullback is, it's slight, right? It's not the normal. Not the normal, that makes no sense. If you get this crab pattern and it kind of pulls back and it keeps going, like what you'll see is other setups to kind of continue to push it higher. That's the kind of stuff you want to look for. And that might be just a lot of information, but hopefully it helps, because those are the things that I look for. You know, are these patterns completing? Are they the patterns that kind of do, you know, like this where they complete, right? And then after that, you know, is this, you know, kind of setting up an M that maybe does this and then completes here? And if you start to see that, what you're getting is consolidation. You're getting this tightening. And those smaller M's and W's that, you know, they don't have time to or they finish, but they're the ones that finish, you know, kind of inside of where they started. That's when you start to get continuous consolidation. And a lot of times you'll get, you know, one of those last ones, you know, it'll end up, you know, being like a crab pattern, and it'll pull and it'll break that tightening. It'll break that pin-in or whatever is setting up. So that's a lot of info. That's just the kind of stuff that I look for. And so throughout the day, as you can see, lots of these little patterns to trade, right? You know, here, I mean, there's a lot of them here. You have this W that's set up here. That crab pattern pushed us higher, right? And then we got this little M here that kind of pulled back. And then we got this W that was more of a, you know, it kind of a failed pattern, which turned into this W, which pushed us up to this, you know, double top, you know, and that's just, you just keep looking for these things. So, and if you get in one of these trades, you know, let's say you got in, well, actually we could get technical here, jump down to a 5-second chart and say that this actually worked out. Oh, I do not. Yeah, now that I'm really looking at it. So, because this did actually complete now that I've zoomed in on a lower time frame, but it probably barely, if not, you know, almost barely completed. And so then what we ended up having is that pulled back, you know. No, it didn't. It didn't complete. Yeah. So, okay. Sorry. There we go. There we go. Now I can see it. So what would we do? Right. So we get this W turned into this little M that pushed us down here. Get this little junk here. Then you get this pop, pull. There we go. So let's say that you saw it like this, and this was going to be our push, right? So where would you have gotten in? Let's look at this. So if we were to chop it right here, so let's say, right? Yeah, let me put that back. So let's say, just for grins, that we got in, right here. Okay. So now let's do this. Let's take and measure it. See what we got from the top up here. Let's see what we got. So, okay, our first profit target is going to be right around 38%. So we take a little off. Okay. And then what do we want to do? Well, our stops, we don't necessarily want them at our entry, but, for the sake of this particular trade, maybe you do. But at worst, your stops are going to be somewhere down under here, right? You're going to put them just below. And the issue here being is it pulled just enough to stop you out. So that would have been a trade. If you would have gotten in it, you would have been upside down in. Now, if you were to look down here, you look at the volume. There was definitely not a lot of volume to support this, which is pretty much why it failed. Which, it's one of those things you have to keep an eye on. So, there's a lot of things to keep an eye on, right? Which is what makes trading so difficult. If it were easy, everybody would do it. And the issue here being, a lot of times, especially if you're a new trader, if you just got stopped out here, the chances of you seeing this push, seeing this push right here and this pullback, especially if you were to just take this, measure this across here, and then you're just like, oh, okay, well, it's the same setup, right? I got this pullback here. So, would you enter that? Well, probably not. Most traders probably wouldn't, and it's just one of those hazards of trading. So, those are the things you can't get discouraged about. I would assume a lot of people as well, that understand the M's and W's pattern. There's probably a possibility. Let's see here. No, there's not. I was going to say that, yeah, it's possible somebody might have seen an M setting up here too, right, and tried to short it down. I don't think I would have done that just based upon the way the market was going today. But, yeah, the rest of the time throughout the day, the day was just an upward trend day, just like the other day was, right? So, we had these little pullbacks, and if you were to measure these pullbacks out, they're probably just right on cue where they should be. Do this on a bigger time frame here. So let's take it, measure it out. This pullback, look at that, right on the 38.2. Just a solid, easy pullback to continue. And then let's see, well, if we get anything special here, that's a double top pretty much. Yeah, so, and then from here, what did we push up to? I think we measured that 1.618. Yeah. So we pushed to 1.618. And that is just at 1.618, unless you've got momentum like that, you're going to exhaust there. So, yeah, overall, it was just an ABCD pattern pretty much all day today. You had this first piece right here, and I'm willing to bet if we were to measure this out, we could probably get some kind of wonky bat pattern out of it. No, we couldn't, because that's a double top. We're not getting a wonky bat pattern out of that at all. Yeah, so there you go. ABCD pattern. That's pretty much what happened today. Easy peasy. So there you go. Hope it's helpful. And I'm sure there are things that I ignored or missed, or, I'll probably have a note about, which I didn't go back and look at because I never do when I make these. I like making these videos. I enjoy them for me. Hopefully they help you. I've had a few people tell me that they do, and I've had a handful of followers slowly trickling in, so I'm assuming that they're helping some people. And if there's anything in particular that's helpful or that you want to see, let me know. Otherwise, I will just keep doing what I'm doing and, just continue the course and put out videos now and then. Hope everybody had a great week. Hope everybody had a great weekend. And, hopefully I'll put out one or two more of these this week. So until then, I will see everybody later.